want to thank Chairman Rogers, his team, and his staff. The process that we went through in committee was just a model for how to legislate on the National Defense Authorization Act, and in a bipartisan fashion. And I think in that process, we put together a really good bill. The chairman's done a good job of describing it. I won't belabor some of those points, except to say that the emphasis on acquisition and procurement reform is so crucial to everything we're doing. In order to meet the national security threats that we face, we are going to have to innovate vastly more quickly than we do right now. The pace of warfare is simply changing on a day-in and day-out basis. Drones, AI, missile defense, counter-drone technologies, this is evolving rapidly. We simply have to make sure that the best technologies, the innovative companies out there in the world, have access to the Department of Defense so that we can update and change the way we do business and move more quickly. I think that one of the easiest ways to think about it is we need to focus on solving problems, not on process. This bill does an excellent job of making those changes. The chairman led an effort over the course of the last year to do a deep dive on these questions and come up with a very meaningful bill. The bill is also excellent in a number of other areas. It continues on the really good work from last year on quality of life issues, making sure that we take care of the men and women and their families who serve our country. The pay raise, a number of other issues are dealt with in that regard. I think the bill also reflects a strong statement of what our national security needs are. It fully supports Ukraine. It fully supports the Baltic Security Initiative to make sure that our allies in the Baltics and Eastern Europe are supported, and make sure that we support Taiwan through the Indo-PACOM initiative. We have a good bill that came out of committee. And also, crucially, the bill was handled in a bipartisan fashion. We debated a lot of different amendments, some amendments that were problematic. We set aside because they were too partisan one way or the other, and we debated the issues that were most important to the warfighter and produced a good product. So that's the good news. The bad news is what came out of the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee was a completely and totally partisan exercise in a way that, frankly, I haven't witnessed on the defense bill since, well, before last year, in which we totally abandoned everything that Chairman Rogers and everybody else put into in the committee process and said, no, Democrats are irrelevant. This is a Republican bill. That's all we're going to pay attention to. Of the amendments that were ruled in order, 222 of them are Republican, 76 of them are Democrat. None of the Democratic amendments are ones that we're going to be debating. The Democratic amendments are ones that are bipartisan, are going to be unblocked. I know there is a technicality there in that the Meeks amendment is going to be debated, but that's only going to be debated because Chip Roy insisted on it, and it overruled what the majority wanted and voted for it in committee, and that's on repealing the AUMFs in 91 and 2002. So no effort whatsoever to include Democratic ideas while loading it up with some of the most partisan political amendments possible. There are, I think it's 5 different attacks on the trans community. The Trump administration has already achieved all of that. This is simply piling on, including the worst part of it, denying health care to the men and women who serve in the military and their families. Any sort of health care for gender dysphoria, which is an absolute 100% thing, even if you may disagree with how to handle it, no treatment for that. And that's just a purely partisan, gratuitous shot that we decided not to take in committee for a very good reason. But then equally problematic is some of the crucial amendments that Democrats wanted to debate about oversight of this Pentagon, oversight of what President Trump and Secretary Hegseth are doing. He is posting on social media a threat to use the United States military to invade the city of Chicago and other cities. That is not what the United States military is supposed to be used for. It would be appropriate for Congress to exercise oversight and have that debate and say, no, we're not going to let you use the U.S. military for domestic law enforcement. To at least let us have that debate and have a vote on it. Go on record and say how we feel about it. There was also the over-politicization of the military. Unprecedented, unseen. Every single inspector general fired. Every single judge advocate general fired. Multiple senior-level staff officers, including chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, C.Q. Brown, and the general who was in charge of NSA and cyber, General Hawk, fired highly qualified bipartisan support, but they weren't loyal to President Trump. That's not what this is supposed to be about. We should be able to debate those amendments to make sure that the United States military stands up for the American people. It is loyal to the Constitution, not to one person. All of those debates disallowed. So we'll see how the amendment process goes, but it is highly unlikely at the end of it that we're going to have that product that we produced out of committee. That is a shame to this institution. And again, I want to emphasize, Chairman Rogers, great partner, House Armed Services Committee did a great job. Leadership decided to make this a partisan exercise instead of an exercise focused on the American service members, their families, and making sure that our country has what it needs to meet our national security and defense needs. With that, I reserve the balance of my time.